So I haven't done one of these for a while where I take a look at some old magazines or brochures. But recently I attended a salvage fair in South Molton, which is in Somerset. And if you've never been to a salvage fair before, I highly recommend it because you can find some sort of rather interesting things. I've also discovered, like most of these things, it's better to try to negotiate for deals near the end of the day when people are less willing to want to take things home with them. So sort of more willing to come to sort of some kind of compromise or strike a deal, which means that they don't have to take home stuff that they then subsequently have to store. So a good example was this crate of magazines that I've got here, which are in this rather nice black crate, which was originally used to hold mushrooms, I think, of all things. Now, these were going for £1 each, and I've got significantly more than £1, significantly more than the £10 that I spent on the entire crate, which I think is pretty good. And there is some pretty interesting magazines here. We've got this copy of Autocar from October 1971, which covers the motor show at that particular point, at the London Motor Show. And it does cover the an auto test of the Rover P6 3500S, which is on page 88, and also progress with the then new M4 motorway, which is quite nice. And really just sort of quite a lot of sort of things to go through. It's got quite a pleasant thing to look at. Also, what's quite nice is this insert for Lucas accessories, and you can sort of see all the various accessories that Lucas provided at the time. Some of it likely to possibly fail, who knows? But yeah, quite a few sort of memories here. You used to see these sort of come up on a regular basis sort of throughout the 80s. You'd sort of see people would have these accessories fitted, even though they were available in the 70s, and actually available through into the 80s as well. But nowadays you tend to sort of see things like this come up at auto jumbles for sort of a fair amount of money in some cases. What do we have in the magazine? We have page 88, I think it was, is the road test for the 3500. Here it is. In typical auto test, Autocar fashion, you have all of the sort of rather nice interior dimensions. You also have the various options that are available. Air conditioning was £198.75, which adjusted for inflation is a lot more than that. We have comparisons with the sort of major competitors, of which the Citroën DS21 EFI was a competitor, despite having a substantially less powerful engine. But weirdly, it was still capable of doing 112 miles an hour, which is pretty good. That is due in no small part to the DS's very aerodynamic body and flat floor. But yeah, they sort of go through the whole auto test, and what's the actual verdict? Overall verdict is we can best sum it up by saying that we cannot think of a single car we would prefer at the price. Yeah, I mean, these were, at the time, really good. And they're still not bad today, to be honest with you. It was when Rover had a degree more autonomy than they did in the 80s and 90s. You could sort of really see them as a competitor to Jaguar, and the P6 was highly innovative in its construction and a real sort of driver's car, which, yeah, later Rovers weren't really, although the SD1 wasn't bad. That was sort of your last real independent Rover product. The 800 series, I've owned many of them, and they're all right, but there were far better options, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. Although the Honda engine used in the 2.5, early 2.5, not later 2.5, which was a KV6 Rover engine, but the early 2.5 and 2.7s was a fantastic engine. Just the sort of the rest of the car, I wouldn't say let it down, but it could have been better, could have handled better, could have been built better. It was very much a compromise. Let's leave it at that. Basically, I don't hate them, I quite like them, but I fully acknowledge that they're not the best car in the world. Now this one's interesting. It looks like the whole section has been redacted, as you can see here as well. But it does test the Reliant Scimitar, which is, I'd say, a favourite car of mine. Always rather liked them, if I'm going to be honest. This is another auto car. This one is from the 17th of December 1970. With some sort of rather nice period adverts. Oh, that's nice. A Bond bug as well, with advertising Goodyear tyres. And various other things. We'll probably look at these in some sort of more detail at some point as well. But yeah, an auto test for the Volkswagen Super Beetle, which was a sort of heavily revised VW Beetle. You can sort of tell the larger rear lights, larger windows, and different suspension setup on the front, if I remember rightly. The rear was similar, but the front differed, and I can't remember why. What was the difference about the front? That's right, independent McPherson struts, lower links, coil springs, telescopic dampers, and anti-roll bar. I want to say earlier versions had a torsion beam set up, but I'm not going to commit myself to that because I'm not 100% certain, because I don't really follow Beetles with any sort of real enthusiasm. They sort of exist as a car which is interesting and historically important, but I don't have any sort of real like or dislike for them, to be honest. I've driven one, and I didn't hate it. It was comfortable. Not particularly fast, but it certainly was quite a comfortable car to drive, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. And quite quiet as well, because the engine is all the way out the back. So you don't really sort of get any... You get a bit of wind noise, obviously, but you don't really sort of get any engine noise because, well, obviously it's out the back. But it did sort of have a tendency to be a bit interesting on the back end if you pushed it a little bit too far. Not that I did, but you could tell that it could get a bit excitable. This one's interesting. This is sort of like the Car Mechanics magazine. And this one is actually sort of detailing how to fit a second tank into a Mini, which is a nice little thing to do. Nice little project, if you so desire. And what else does it sort of cover? Sort of a mixture of practical advice and I guess sort of just general reviews of the industry as it was at the time. But a lot of it, as you can sort of tell, is very full of adverts. I mean, I've just gone through several pages there, and each half page, and in some cases the full page, is taken up with adverts. I mean, there we go again. More adverts, more adverts. Adverts. Car clinic for British Leyland. More adverts. Adverts for Players number 6. More adverts. Car clinic for Standard Triumph. More adverts. Car clinic for Jaguar and Rover. More adverts again. Car clinic for all of the just foreign car clinics for the foreign stuff, for those foreign jobs. So that covers Renault, VW, Fiat, Volvo, Citroën, Simca. If it's foreign, it goes in this section. Yeah, it's just fine. You can really see the emphasis on sort of more British marks in those days. But looking at it, yeah, it's not really a bad little magazine. I mean, there's a whole section here on fight friction, which is talking about oil and talking about how lubrication actually works in the engine. Actually shows a sort of typical engine here with the sort of flow of oil through the engine and out to the oil cooler there. That doesn't look like a typical UK engine. It looks like a straight 6 of some description, but I'm not sure on the manufacturer. Whatever it is an overhead valve, straight 6 of some description. Also shows you sort of different types of piston wear that you can get. I mean, this really was back in the time where oil was not anywhere near as good as it is today, if we're going to be perfectly honest. This is good, though. This is genuinely interesting and could even benefit owners of Minis today, although you could argue that, well, not only is it taking up a huge amount of boot space, it's making the car less original. So you probably wouldn't want to do this for originality purposes, but if you wanted to, it would be quite a nice sort of period upgrade, you could say. But could you actually get the correct type of tank? Is the tank actually handed? Because looking at it, if you turn that around, you've got the output going out to the left. So, yeah, I suppose it is possible that it's not handed. You could have it either side. What's this? Oh, talking about ringers. That was something that was quite a concern, certainly in the... Well, certainly nowadays it's still sort of technically a problem, but you don't really sort of see the cut and shuts anymore. You tend to sort of see identities being swapped rather than the back of one car and the front end of another. I don't think that still goes on. It's certainly harder to do it with all of these various regulations that are now in place. Well, this is good. It actually talks about fitting a different camshaft, talks about different cam profiles. So really, once you get past all the adverts, this isn't actually that bad. What are we talking about here? We're talking about the Land Crab, Austin 1800. Talking about when the engine won't pull and the tick over is lumpy and all the checks fail. You need to dig deeper. And they're actually talking about doing a general sort of decoke by the looks of it, judging by the fact we've got the cylinder head there taken off. Then we talk about, looks like we've got a road test of a Simca 1301 GLS, which is under the foreign section. But Simca, I seem to remember seeing quite a lot of them when I was younger. They sort of disappeared sometime in the late 80s. But you did see sort of quite a few of them when growing up. And the Talbot Matra Rancho was based on a Simca 1300, if I remember rightly. So, yeah, you did sort of see quite a few of them around at the time. Although I seem to remember the Rancho was front-wheel drive, whereas this is obviously rear-wheel drive. What else do we have in here? We have a motor magazine from 1983, February the 26th. This one's quite good because we've got the road test of the E30 323i, which is quite cool. Let's see if I can find it quickly. Oh, we also talk about the Renault 9 and 11 as well. It's a shame we didn't get the one for the next week where they were talking about doing a road test on the Granada and also a long-term test on that Nissan Stanza, which is technically the car that became the T12 Bluebird. So the Stanza's the T11, and then obviously you've got T12 and then T72 Bluebirds, and they were developed from the Stanza rather than the old U12 Bluebird. I think the U12 was also marketed as the Nissan Maxima, certainly in the US anyway. So kit cars, Jackie Stewart on tyres. Judging by the fact we've got all these BMW adverts, this is probably where we have the road test for the 323. This is something rather nice that you don't see on modern BMWs. This is the toolkit. I know my 528 E28 had one. My G31 doesn't, unfortunately. But I do get a first aid kit, so that's something. Yeah, it just sort of really covers the car itself. This was a model that didn't actually last that long because it was quickly superseded by the 325i. This is an XJ40 brochure that wasn't part of that, just seems to have ended up in this box. This I managed to get hold of as well. This is a Mark 1 Capri pre-facelift 3000E owner's handbook, which is quite nice. And like all sort of owner's handbooks at this time, it actually covers a lot more sort of technical aspects, such as service schedules, lubrication schedules, and amazingly, if we go back here, complete wiring diagram, which, yeah, you just wouldn't see these days. So, yeah, it was a different time. People sort of were more mechanically minded and keen to work on their cars. I mean, people nowadays will say, oh, it's all computers and you can't do anything with it. Well, yeah, the basics, such as changing the oil, hasn't really changed. You drain the oil, you change the filter, you fill up the oil again. Yeah, it's not really that different, if we're going to be perfectly honest. This one was interesting. This is a Mark II facelift Granada handbook, but it's in Deutsche. So I thought this was quite interesting. Yes, it's not in English, but it's in German, and that's quite interesting. It's quite an interesting thing to have when, you know, all of the pictures are for left-hand drive version, which, yeah, I think I prefer the UK right-hand drive setup where you've got the rev counter over there and the speedo there. They sort of the pointing needles when they're sort of like that and that just looks more aesthetically pleasing than that. What's also interesting is this left-hand drive version has got the clock down here and the radio up here, whereas the right-hand drive had the radio down here and the clock, and then on later models, the Gear X and Gear X Injection, Gear X Executive had a trip computer up here. So that's rather interesting. It might be because it's an early model. I'd need to check my brochures to see if the UK models were the same. They may have been, so I may be sort of barking up the wrong tree on that one, but yeah, an interesting difference nonetheless. What else do we have? Oh, this is equally interesting. So on the left-hand drive version, on the lower spec model, actually this is the diesel, you've actually got an oil pressure gauge, whereas on the UK versions you have speedo, temperature, fuel level, clock, and just blanking plates on these two. Number 13, what's number 13? Glow control, glow plug control. So you might have that on a UK version. Let's see what this one. This is another diesel one. So yeah, this is sort of more typical for, I guess, what we'd see on a UK version. Although I thought the oil would have been on this section here, but no, maybe not. Maybe it is there. What else do you have in here? Does it cover the petrol, lower spec petrol models? So we have high spec petrol, low spec petrol. Yeah, that's the same. So I think you do. Yes, yeah, I think you do get an oil light there. So that's the same as the UK version. Well, I didn't realise that you had the oil pressure gauge. I'm not sure if that's the same as the UK version or not. What else is there? There's also this, which is rather nice. This is another auto car, this time from the 22nd of October 1977, covering all the cars at Motor Fair. That one is from October 1970, and it covers the revised, very quickly re-released Austin Maxi, where it gained a 1750 engine option, which drastically improved the car. I think that also coincided with the ditching of the cable gear change, which came in for a lot of criticism and turned the Maxi into the car that it really should have been in the first place. My parents had a Maxi. We had a Vermilion, I think it was either T or V registration. We owned it in about 1984, 85 or so. And I remember it had a problem with the starter motor solenoid, which meant you had to whack it occasionally with a wooden hammer. But apart from that, the only time it let us down was because of that starter solenoid issue. And the AA man came out and whacked it with a large wooden hammer, whereas previously my dad had just been using a block of wood. The hammer solved the problem, so we just bought a wooden hammer and carried on whacking the starter solenoid to get it to work. And that worked until we part exchanged it for our first Capri, which was a Mark II and Sahara Beige 2-litre GL. And then that obviously gave way to the 3-litre Capri. But I always remember the Maxi was, certainly because I used to sit in the back, it was spacious, it was very comfortable. And I always liked the dashboard, because the dashboard, to me back then, I always thought it looked rather posh. So let's see if we can get a bit of information about it. Well, that's nice, colour pull-out for the Cortina. So where are we? Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I mean, to me, that dashboard always looked quite upmarket. It was, if I remember, I think it was real wood. Very neatly laid out. Just generally quite a nice place to be, really. Yeah, outside the looks were a bit awkward. I mean, you've got those ADO 22 doors. You've got a car that sort of looked more old-fashioned than it should have at the time, and I don't know, it grew on me, let's put it that way. And I think this colour lime flower actually sort of does it quite does complement it somewhat. They do look really nice in a metallic. It's a real nice metallic green, Tara green, I think it was called. And they do look superb in that, especially with the, not these trims, but the sort of chrome trims with the black ring inserted into them. Yeah, I like the Maxi, I'm not going to lie. I've always liked the Maxi. I don't know if I would own one, because it'd probably be sort of a bit of a disappointment, but if I had the space, I would certainly have room for a Maxi, let's put it that way. Yeah. Quite a few happy memories of that car. Not as many happy memories as I had with the Capri and the 3-litre Capri and the Jensen Interceptor, but it was part of my growing up, and it was a car that I enjoyed my parents owning. My parents hated it, but I liked it, and I would clean it, and I would sort of look after it as well. Not, oil changes and stuff, I was too young, but generally sort of keeping it clean and polishing it, that sort of kind of thing. So it would always sort of look quite presentable. I didn't hate that car. Yeah. I liked our Maxi. What else have we got? Oh, another popular motoring. Another auto car. A Britax brochure. Weird. Autograph, whatever that is. The Lifestyle magazine from Leyland Daff. Oh, a Bedford Light Vans brochure. Oh, a Golden Jubilee of the Waverley. One of those bookmarks that you always used to get in the 80s with those bits on the bottom. Daily Express Motor Show Review 1977. Oh, Car Finder from 1972, 23rd of March. So you could buy, oh, let's have a look at what you can actually get. Oh, there's an Exchange and Martin there as well. So what could we get? We could get a weird V4 Saab 1970 model for £895. We could get a Cortina, 1971 Cortina for £945. Or, do you know what? We could get a 1962 Bentley for £2,000. Or a 1971 Citroen Deus Safari for $2,050. Blimey. Or one of those weird Japanese things. The new Datsun. Let's see page 33. So, where are we? Page 33. Okay, so 21, 25, 27. Yeah, I checked that, it's not a winner. 29. Are we on 33 yet? 39. Yeah, look at that. Laircrest Motors Limited. New Datsun, 15% discount. So, where's any Datsuns for sale? There's no Datsuns. I want a Datsun. I'll have to buy it new then. Fair enough. What else could I get? Maxi with 12,000 miles on the clock, one owner, brown, £825. 4 Cortina, so 69, so that'll be a Mark II. 1600 estate, one owner, excellent condition, white, £620, not bad. Yeah, amazing to see some of the bargains that you could probably get in here, and even adjusted for inflation, they would still be a bargain in today's money. And what else? Oh yeah, and the final one is the Exchange and Mark right down the bottom. Anyway, that was a nice little trip down memory lane, actually looking at stuff when I was just born and also before I was born as well. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.